Today is September 30th. It is once again, well, first of all, my name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. You'd think I know how to do this by now. Today is the last day of the month, and as you've probably noticed in the last several months, that usually on the last day of the month, we read a personal story. And recently, I picked up a copy of the first edition. Now, this is a reprint copy of the first edition. And what's fascinating is there are several stories that are in the first edition that are not in even the second edition or, of course, later editions of this book that I have personally never read before. So today, we're actually going to read one of the first stories in the first edition. The story we're going to be reading today is an interesting one. This is called The Unbeliever, and the person who wrote this story is Hank P. from New Jersey. He was first sober right around October or November of 1935, shortly after meeting Bill W. And what's interesting is this is the first man that Bill helped sober up after returning from Akron. He's considered the second AA member in New York. So this guy was a former executive at a Standard Oil company in New Jersey, but of course he lost his job due to drinking. But what's fascinating about this story is this man plays a huge part in the making of the Big Book. He helped shape the phrase God as we understood him, which lives on in our 12 steps to this day, nearly 100 years later. He wrote most of the chapter 2 employers in the Big Book, except for the opening paragraph, and Hank was also instrumental in getting this book published, which I had no idea about. And of course, the sad part is that he would be sober for a little while, but eventually would go back out. He began drinking again by September of 1939. He did briefly return to the program, but ultimately struggled to maintain his sobriety, and unfortunately passed away on January 18th, 1954 from alcohol-related causes, at the age of just 57. But his contribution to AA is immeasurable. And this particular story we're about to read, it's almost like a stream of consciousness in the sense that we're getting a lot of inner dialogue. But what shines through this inner dialogue of this man who's desperate to just have some peace and desperate to stop thinking so much. This little seed has been planted by this visitor that comes to see him. Every time he tries to get his mind off of this guy, something brings it back around to his experience with this visitor. And we're going to see here, all throughout the story, that he just can't seem to escape the thoughts of this man. And what is he really trying to do? So with that, let's go ahead and get to it. So this is The Unbeliever from the first edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Dull, listless, semi-comatose. I lay on my bed in a famous hospital for alcoholics. Death or worse has been my sentence. What's the difference? What difference did anything make? Why think of those things which were gone? Why worry about the results of my drunken escapades? What the hell were the odds if my wife had discovered the mystery situation? 2 small boys, sure. But what difference would a corpse or an asylum imprisoned father make to them? Thoughts stop whirling in my head. That's the worst of this sobering up process. The old think tank is geared in high. What do I mean by high? Where'd that come from? Oh yeah, that first Cadillac I had. It had 4 speeds. Had a high gear. Insane asylum. How that bus could scamper, yeah. Even then, liquor probably poisoned me. What had that little doctor said this morning? Thoughts hesitate a moment. Stop your man turning. What was I thinking about? Oh yeah, the doctor. This morning I reminded Doc that this was my 10th visit. I spent a couple of thousands of dollars on these trips and those that I had financed for the plastered playgirls who also couldn't sober up. Jackie was a honey until she got plastered, and then she was a hellion. Wonder what gutter she's in now. Where was I? Oh. I asked the doctor to tell me the truth. He owed it to me for the amount of money that I had spent. But he faltered. Said that I'd been drunk, that's all. God, didn't I know that? But Doc, you're evading. Tell me honestly, what is the matter with me? I'll be all right, did you say? But Doc, you've said that before. You said that once if I stopped for a year, I'd be over the habit and would never drink again. I didn't drink for over a year, but I did start to drink again. Tell me what is the matter with me. Oh, I'm an alcoholic? As if I didn't know that. But aside from your fancy name for this plain drunk, tell me why I drink. You say a true alcoholic is something different from a plain drunk? What do you mean? Just let me have it cold, brief with no trimmings. An alcoholic is a person who has an allergy to alcohol? Is poisoned by it? One drink does something to the chemical makeup of the body? That drink affects the nerves, and in a certain number of hours, another drink is medically demanded? And so this vicious cycle is started? An even smaller amount of time between drinks to stop those screaming, twitching, invisible wires called nerves? Look, I know that history, Doc. How the spiral tightens. A drink, unconscious, awake, drink, unconscious, poured into the hospital, suffered the agonies of hell, the shakes, thoughts running wild, brain unleashed, engine without a governor. But hell, Doc, I don't want to drink. I've got one of the stubbornest willpowers known in business. I stick at things. I get them done. I've stuck on the wagon for months and not been bothered by it. And then suddenly, incomprehensibly, an empty glass in my hand and another spiral started. How did the doc explain that one? He couldn't. That was one of the mysteries of true alcoholism. A famous medical foundation had spent a fortune trying to segregate the reasons for the alcoholic as compared to the plain hard heavy drinker. Had tried to find the cause. And all they had been able to determine as a fact was that the majority of alcohol in every drink taken by the alcoholic went to fluid in which the brain floated. Why a man had ever started when he knew those things was one of the things that could not be fathomed. Only the damn fool public believed that it was a matter of weak willpower. Fear, ostracism, loss of family, loss of position, the gutter. Nothing stopped the alcoholic. Doc, what do you mean, nothing? What? An incurable disease? Doc, you're kidding me. Look, you're just trying to scare me into stopping. Oh, what's that you say? You wish you were? What are those tears in your eyes, Doc? What's that? 40 years you spent at this alcohol business and you've yet to see a true alcoholic cured? Your life defeated and wasted? Come, Doc. What would some of us do without you? If even only to sober up. But Doc, let's have it. What is going to be my history from here on out? Some vital organ will stop, or the madhouse with a wet brain? How soon? Within 2 years. But Doc, I've got to do something about it. I'll see doctors. I'll go to sanitariums. Surely the medical profession knows something about it. So little, you say. But why? Messy? Yeah. I'll admit there is nothing messier than an alcoholic drunk. What's that, Doc? You know of a couple fellows that were steady customers here that haven't been drunk for about 10 months? You say They claim they're cured? And they make an avocation of passing it on to others? What have they got? You don't know? You don't believe they are cured? Well, why even tell me about it? A fine fellow, you say? Plenty of money. And you're sure it isn't a racket? Just wants to be helpful? Hey, call him up for me, will you, Doc? How Doc hated to tell me. Thoughts stopped knocking at my door. Why can't I just get drunk like other people and get up the next morning and toss my head a couple of times and go to work? Why do I have to shake so I can't even hold a razor? Why does every little muscle inside me have to feel like a crawling worm? Why do even my vocal cords quiver so words are gibberish until I've had a drink? Poison. Of course. But how can anyone understand such a necessity for a drink? That it has to be loaded with pepper just to keep it from bouncing? Can any mortal understand such a secret shame in having to have a drink as to make a person keep the bottles hidden all over the house? The morning drink? Shame and necessity? Weakness? Remorse? But what do the family know about it? What do doctors know about it? Little Doc was right. They know nothing. They just say, be strong, or don't take that drink, or suffer through. What the hell do they know about suffering? Not sickness, not a bellyache. Oh yes, you're gonna get so sore that you cannot place your hands on them. Oh sure, every time you go to twist, you writhe in pain. What the hell does any non-alcoholic know about suffering? Thoughts. Stop this mad merry-go-round. And worst of all, this mental suffering, the hating yourself, the feeling of absurd, irrational weakness, the unworthiness. Out that window. Use the gun in the drawer. What about poison? Go out in the garage and start the car. Yeah, that's the way out. But then people will just say he was plastered. I can't leave that story behind. That's worse than cowardly. Isn't there some who understand? Isn't there someone who understands? Thoughts, please, oh please stop. I'm going nuts. Or am I nuts now? Never. Never again will I take another drink. Not even a glass of beer. Even that starts it. Never. Never. Never again. And yet, I said that a dozen times, and inexplicably I found an empty glass in my hand. And that whole story repeated. My Lord. The tragedy that sprang out of her eyes when I came home with that breath on me. In fear. The smiles wiped off the kids' faces. Terror stalking through the house. Yes. That changed it from a home into a house. Not drunk yet, but they knew what was coming. Mr. Hyde was moving in. So I'm going to die. Or wet brain. What was it that fellow said? Who was here this afternoon? Damn fool thought. Get out of my mind. Now I know I'm going nuts. And science knows nothing about it. And psychiatrists. I've spent plenty on them. Thoughts, go away. No. I don't want to think about what that fellow said this afternoon. He's trying. Idealistic as hell. Nice fellow, too. Why do I have to suffer with this revolving brain? So why can't I just sleep? What was it he said? Oh, yeah. Came in and told about his terrific drunks. His trips up here. This same thing I'm going through. Yeah, he's an alcoholic, all right. And then he told me how he knew that he was cured. Told me he was peaceful. I'll never know peace again. And that he didn't carry constant fear around with him. Happy because he felt free. But it's all screwy. He said so himself. But he did get my confidence when he started to tell me what he had gone through. It was so exactly like my case. He knows what this torture is. He raised my hopes so high, it looked as though he had had something. I don't know, I guess I was so sold that I expected him to spring some kind of pill, and I asked him desperately what it was. And he said God. And I laughed. A ball bat across my face would have been no greater shock. I was so high with hope and expectation. How can a man be so heartless? He said it sounded screwy, but it worked. At least it had with him. He said he was not a religionist. In fact, he didn't go to church much. Well, my ears came up at that. His unconventionality attracted me. Said that some approaches to religion were screwy. Talked about how the simplest truth in the world had so often been all balled up by complicating it. And that attracted me. Get out of my mind. What a fine religious bird I'd be. Imagine the glee of the gang at me getting religion. Phooey. Thoughts, just please slow down. Why don't they just give me something to go to sleep? Lie down in green pastures? The guy's nuts. Forget him. Just forget him. And so it's the madhouse for me. Glad Mother's dead. She won't have to suffer that. If I'm going nuts, maybe I'd be better to be crazy the way he is. At least the kids wouldn't have the insane father whisper to carry through life. Life's cruel. Puny-minded, curtain-hiding gossips. Didn't you know his father was committed for insanity? What a sly label that would be to hang on those boys. Damn the gossiping. Reputation shredding. Busybodies who put their noses in other people's business. He laid in the same dump. Suffered. Gone through hell. Made up his mind to get well. Studied alcoholism. Jung. Blank Medical Foundation, asylums. Hopkins. Many said incurable disease. Impossible. Nearly all known cures have been through religion. Revolted him. Made a study of religion. The more he studied, the more it was a bunk to him. Not understandable. Self-hypnotism. And then the thought hit him that people had it all twisted up. They were trying to pour everyone into the molds, put a tag on them, tell them what they had to do and how they had to do it, for the salvation of their own souls. When, as a matter of fact, people were through worrying about their souls, they wanted action right here and now. A lot of tripe was usually built up around the simplest and most beautiful ideas in the world. And how did he put that idea? Bunk. Bunk. Well, why in the hell am I still thinking about him? In hell. Yeah, that's good. I am in hell. He said, I came to the conclusion that there is something. I know not what it is, but it is bigger than I. If I will acknowledge it, if I will humble myself, if I will give in and bow in submission to that something, and then try to lead a life as fully in accord with my idea of good as possible, I will be in tune. And later the word good contracted in his mind to God. But mister, I can't see any guy with long white whiskers up there just waiting for me to make a plea. And what did he answer? Said I was trying to complicate it. Why did I insist on making it human? All I had to do was just believe in some power greater than myself and knuckle down to it. And I said, well, maybe. But tell me, mister, why are you wasting your time up here? Don't hand me any bunk about it being more blessed to give than receive. I asked him what this thing cost. He laughed. He said it wasn't a waste of time. In doping it out, he had thought of something somebody had said. A person never knew a lesson until he tried to pass it on to somebody else. And he found out that every time he passed it on, it became more vivid to him. So if he wanted to get hard-boiled about it, he owed me. I didn't owe him. Well, that's a new slant. The guy's crazy as a loon. Get away from him, brain. Picture me going around telling other people how to run their lives. If only I could go to sleep. That sedative doesn't seem to take hold. He could visualize a great fellowship of us, quietly passing this on from alcoholic to alcoholic. Nothing organized, not ministers, not missionaries. What a story. Thought we'd have to go to it to get well. Some kind of a miracle that had happened in his life. Common sense guy at that. His plan does fire the imagination. Told him it sounded like self-hypnotism to me, and he said, what of it? Didn't care if it was yogiism or self-hypnotism or anything else. 4 of them were well. But it's so damn hypocritical. I get beat every other way, and then I turn around and lay it in God's lap? Damned if I would ever turn to God. What a low-down, cowardly, despicable trick that would be. I don't believe in God anyway. Just a lot of hooey to keep the masses in subjugation. World's worst inquisitions have been practiced in his name. And he said, do I have to turn into an inquisitionist? If I don't knuckle down, I die. Why, the low-down missionary. What a bastardly screw to put on a person. A witch burner, that's what he is. The hell with him and all his damn theories. Witch burner. Sleep. Please come to my door. That was the last 885th sheep over the fence. Guess I'll put in some black ones. Sheep. Shepherds. Wise men. What was that story? Hell, here I go back on that same line. Told him I couldn't understand and I couldn't believe anything. I couldn't understand. He said he supposed then that I didn't use electricity. No one actually understood where it came from or what it was. Nuts to him. He's got too many answers. What do you think the nub of the whole thing was? Subjugate self to some power above? Ask for help? Mean it? Try to pass it on? I asked him what he was going to name this. Said it would be fatal to give any kind of thing a tag. To have any sort of formality. I'm going nuts. Tried to get him into an argument about miracles, about immaculate conception, about stars leading 3 wise men, Jonah and the whale. He wanted to know what difference those things made. He didn't even bother his head about them. If he did, he would get tight again. So I asked him what he thought about the Bible. Said he'd read it and used those things he understood. He didn't take the Bible literally as an instruction book, for there was no nonsense you could not make out of it that way. Thought I had him when I asked about the past sins that I had committed. Guess I'd done everything in the book. I suppose I'd have to adopt the attitude that all was forgiven. Here I am pure and clean as a driven snow. Or else I was to go through life flogging myself mentally. But he had an answer for that one too. He said he couldn't call back the hellish things he had done, but he figured life might be a ledger page. If he did a little good here and there, maybe the score would be evened up one day. On the other hand, if he continued as he had been going, there'd be nothing but debit items on the sheet. Kind of common sense. This is ridiculous. Have I lost all power of logic? Would I fall for all that religious line? Let's see if I can't get the thinking straight. That's it. I'm just trying to do too much thinking. Just calm myself. Quietly. Quiet now. Relax every muscle. Start at the toes, move up. Insane. My brain. Those boys. What a mess my life is. Mistress. How I hate her. I know what's the matter. That fellow gave me an emotional upset. I'll just list every reason I couldn't accept his way of thinking. After laughing at this religious stuff all these years, I'd be a hypocrite. That's one. Second, if there was a God, why all this suffering? Wait a minute. He said that one of the troubles is we try to give God some form. Make it just a power that will help. Third, it sounds like the Salvation Army. Told him that, and he said that he was not going around singing on any street corners. But nevertheless, the Salvation Army did a great work. Simply, if he heard of a guy suffering the torments, he told him his story and belief. There I go thinking again. I just started to get calmed down. Sleep. My boys. Insane. Death. Mistress. Life all messed up. My business. Now listen. Take hold. What am I gonna do? Never. That's final. And in caps, never. That's net, no discount. Never, never. And in my mind is made up, never am I going to be such a cowardly low-down dog as to acknowledge God. The two-faced, gossiping Babbitts can go around with their sanctimonious mouthings, their miserable worshipping, their Bible quotations, their holier-than-thou attitudes, their nicey-nice, Sunday worshipping, Monday robbing actions, but never will they find me acknowledging God. Just let me laugh. I like to shriek with insane glee. My mind's made up. Insane. There it is again. This floor is cold on my knees. Why are there tears running down like a river on my cheeks? God, have mercy on my soul. All right, my friends, that concludes today's reading. Talk about a fascinating stream of consciousness. And as many friends in the rooms have told me over the years, listen for the similarities. This man is trying so desperately not to think about this visitor. This visitor, who we find out later is Bill W., has kind of planted a seed in this guy's mind. There's something different about this guy. And it's not so much that he's amazing, but something has happened to this guy. And he's almost got an answer for every single question that our friend Hank here poses. And finally, and at the very end, even though he is trying so hard to fight against the idea of there being a power greater than himself, we find him on his knees, asking for mercy. Powerful stuff. And even though Hank struggled with alcoholism, even after this, the phrase, as God understood him from the steps, comes from his contribution and lives on nearly 100 years later. That is a legacy that lives on. And we all have our prejudices about a higher power, and I won't get into all that. But I think this story really highlights the fact that you don't have to believe exactly like I do. I don't have to believe exactly like you do. But for me, I need to acknowledge that I'm not God. I am not my higher power. And that I need help to put the bottle down. Powerful story, and I'm so thankful that I got this first edition reprint. Again, you can find these on Amazon. They're on eBay. Just great stuff. And a different perspective from these pioneers of AA. And if any of y'all could relate to this story in any way, and you'd like to share your experience, strength, and hope, please reach out to us. Send us an email at bigbookdaily@gmail.com. I'd love to share your story with the world. So with that, my friends, I have talked enough. I'm sure you're very tired of hearing from me now. But if we are given another set of 24 hours, I sincerely look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.